I don't think the weather will be the same as like.
It's worth your big point.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to our workshop meeting of the Tourism and Oxy Tax Committee. First item of business with a motion to approve the April 29th minutes of the Tourism and Oxy Tax Coordination. Motion by Supervisor Beatty, second by Supervisor Merlino. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Here. Okay, first item, we have two scoring guidelines that were sent out for today's meeting. First is the old system that was adopted in 2014. And the other one is a new potential scoring system that was developed by the tourism department for going forward. Obviously, we had a lot of information sent out, and I'll ask the committee which scoring sheet you want to use today. If you want more time to study the difference in the two, or you let me know. Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Can we just have a brief discussion or a presentation
Absolutely.
about the changes?
Go ahead. You want me? So you want to explain the major changes on the scoring sheet? I guess with Kristen or Joanne or Lisa. Your pick, whoever would like to talk on the scoring sheets.
So we're looking just, Mr. Chairman, at Schedule A.
There's a Schedule A, it's the 2014, and then there's another one that was sent out to you. It's the new scoring sheet. It was been sent out with a packet,
Right.
and that is not called anything.
Do we have it in hard copy here?
You should have it. Yes, it was part of your hand.
Okay. I'm having a tough time finding that.
That one.
It's the one that says Lake George Area Scoring System Guidelines for Oxy Tax.
This would be it.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
You're asking me, the guy has poor eyesight. But anyways, go ahead.
I can talk.
Sure.
So yeah, so in,
You have to talk into the mic so they can, yeah.
okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. It's like the Bryce mad. So in looking over the occupancy tax scoring sheets, we made a couple of slight revisions, nothing too out of the ordinary. We did add up at the top, the boxes for-profit and not-for-profit, or actually non-profit, as well as a complete application versus not an incomplete application. So those check boxes there based on the criteria, but we do require with each application. In addition, there was a new score that was added for nonprofit events, which weighted a little more heavily than for-profit events, as well as further down the line, you see a box there for marketing, which is an evaluation of the demonstration of marketing promotional reach beyond 75 miles, therefore encouraging overnight stays as opposed to more localized events. So again, trying to regenerate occupancy tax through our collections with the properties. And then in addition, the last, under the variables and considerations, there are a few other questions that we added to sort of bring you to the idea of, some other considerations and some other things to think about when looking overall at the applications that do come in for grant applications for overall considerations. So for example, the size of the event, the fit, how does it fit within that community, as well as, really basic things like, is the application complete? Does it provide a comprehensive marketing plan, a timeline, a complete budget? Is it a for-profit or not for-profit? What do the direct ticket sales, if there are ticket sales involved, impact? And, is the event's marketing efforts something that could potentially dovetail into the overall current marketing program that is being done by the Warren County Tourism Department? So in essence, basically looking at an event to see if it could extend the reach of what is currently being done now. So advertising dollars are being spent, let's say, in just the Northeast. Is that event also going to be able to market to, for example, the Mid-Atlantic or further down and bring in new dollars and new reach that we would not have to spend from the county side, but rather expanding that reach out? So those are just additional questions that we added to that for consideration. And is it also unique to the area? So is this something that is only, that we are only going to have here in our county? And that would make it less of a competition with a similar event in, let's say, Vermont. So things like that are just for consideration. So just some additional things to think about as you're looking at the overall strategy of, as we're trying to grow the occupancy tax funding. Does this make sense? Is this something that's going to generate year to year and continue to expand? And also are some of these even guaranteed business so that we can know for sure that it's going to come back year to year?
Mr. Chairman, just. a quick
Supervisor,
follow-up.
Rao, go ahead.
Thank you very much. This past winter, we had an event that actually returned tax money. Do we have any scoring to encourage that?
In terms of, I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
Well, this winter, and I can't recall what the name of the event was.
Winterfest.
Winterfest,
Yeah.
right? So we actually had occupancy tax money returned
Mhm.
to us as the result of that event. Do we have any scoring in here that reflects the
Not
priority to do something like that?
Not on this sheet, but that's certainly a really good consideration to be able to look forward and maybe add going forward. If all that money is not used and can be returned, that's a cost savings actually for us. And it's a good return on our investment. So it's certainly something we can look to add in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the scoring sheet for the committee or anybody not on the committee?
Chairman,
Any questions? Supervisor Hogan.
thank you. I thought a lot of the changes were really, really thoughtful. So thank you, Kristen. They really were very thoughtful, especially the 75-mile. When I saw that, I kind of went, oh, I get it. But I would like to suggest that we take out any possibility of somebody submitting an incomplete application. I don't know why we would accept an incomplete application. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Beatty.
I concur with Supervisor Hogan. And really, when, we have this scoring sheet, there shouldn't be any gray area, correct? I mean, we're going just by the data that's supplied to us. So the scoring sheet, if the application is filled out completely, every event should already be scored. Correct? I mean, you want us to score it and that's fine, but why would we individually score it if we're all reading the same exact data?
Well, I think we're trying to put more in the hands of our tourism department to look at these over ahead of time and to give us suggestions. You'll see that with the spreadsheet that we just handed out. And I think that will work for everybody. As far as incomplete, I'm going to defer to Joe or Lisa. Do we accept incomplete applications? Do we try to process them now? We usually go back to the applicant, correct?
We do.
But do we put them in the packet if they're not complete?
We have several that are incomplete in our packet today.
Excuse me. I addressed Lisa. She's going to answer that. Thank you.
I guess we put them in.
Okay.
We do try to follow up and get additional information. However, we're really under a time crunch this time. So if there's anything missing, I hope you'll take that into consideration.
Okay. Questions from John Stroud, Supervisor Stroud.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Chairman Garrity. Yeah, sometimes there is an upstart, a new guy in town who has an idea or she has an idea and they want to go forward with it. And you know what? Sometimes they don't have all the information that the application is asking for. They should not be nullified because they have an incomplete application. I'm sorry, I think we have to stay open on this matter and look at each proposal in an individual way, because new, young, upstart, don't have that information, are not going to submit a complete application, period. And they should not be denied consideration.
Supervisor Beatty, did you want?
Yeah, so I wanted to follow up. So what we were just handed then is the scoring sheet then already done. That's what I was asking about. So each event has been scored already by the tourism department. Is that correct? Okay,
Yes.
That's where I was going with this is,
Yeah.
I'll be glad to score each event, but I was thinking, okay, that's exactly, thank you.
Right.
I think we just wanted to allow supervisors to do scoring on their own.
Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you. I agree very much with Supervisor Stroud that we need to allow new events to go forward. But perhaps what we should do is have certain categories, you know, old, previously established events, new events, not-for-profit events. I don't know. Maybe something that makes up for the fact that, yeah, a new event doesn't have all that information. But as a general rule, I don't think we should accept incomplete applications. So maybe we need two different for new, established. I don't know.
Okay, well, we can certainly take that under consideration. What Supervisor Bramer?
Sorry, thanks. When you said that this giant list has already been scored by the tourism department, did they use the new scoring sheet or the old criteria?
We use the new.
The new?
Yeah.
Which is that the one with the,
I'm sorry, you're late. It's
Yeah.
the ones with it has the application. It's the one with the
With the
heading,
logo on the
Lake
top.
George area,
Okay.
and then the scoring system guidelines. It was all sent out to you, right?
oh, I know.
Should all
This
have.
It wasn't sent redlined.
There's nothing red line on that. It's new. Any other comments?
Where,
What's the pleasure of the committee? Supervisor Hogan?
sorry,
What?
quick question. Where's the scoring numbers? I don't seem to have the document that actually has the score.
Unfortunately, we'd have to email them out to people who weren't here. They distributed it with the packets.
Can you get one to me, please? Can somebody scan that and send it?
I guess we'll get a hold of the department to send them out to you, and I guess Supervisor Stroud, you're on the committee.
Did you get this?
Anybody else?
Yeah, I don't know about the scoring sheet.
I don't have it either. I'm here.
I do my own scoring.
She just handed them out, so I don't know. You weren't in the room when she was handing them out. Yes, attorney.
I would recommend using the old scoring sheet just because it was passed by resolution in 2014 and we don't have a current resolution right now for the new scoring sheet.
Okay, we'll use the old scoring sheet. Yes, Supervisor Bramer.
Thanks. Because I missed the beginning of the meeting. Are you asking us to make decisions on these particular things
I
today?
was asking the committee what their choice was.
Oh, okay. I have not had a chance to read through all this yet. So I'd prefer not to unless there are events
That's
that
fine.
really need an answer by the
Nope,
next
We
few
don't,
weeks.
we don't need an answer today. We would like it by the next committee meeting.
Did we already go over the amount of money that we have available?
Nope.
Can we do that, please? At some
Well,
point?
when I get ready, go ahead, Doug.
So I heard Mr. Dickey say we should use the old scoring system.
Yep.
But the sheets in front of us are based on the new scoring system.
But they're not that different. I don't think we can certainly, it's going to be up to us to justify the amounts anyway. So let's go through them with the summaries and then we'll decide what amount we
I
want to
just
do.
soon go with the new system because in all reality, we're probably going to be adopting the.
I think the biggest change was the profit, not for profit, for profit.
Right.
That was the biggest change because it added a weight to
Right.
a nonprofit versus a
Oh,
for-profit
I get that.
of a
yeah.
10-point.
So it's a good tool to use today. I think we should too, but
And the one other point was that Ms. Hogan made was, I think is excellent. In the future, or even this year, we should have different pools of money available for different types of events, i.e. a new event should have X amount of dollars because they wouldn't have the data needed to score, okay? A nonprofit event and a profit event. I think there almost should be three pools of money, and that way it addresses all those concerns.
I think that's good for future consideration. Supervisor Bramer, you had another question?
Thank you. I love this discussion that we're having about the conceptual way we're going to move forward. I think it's great. And one thing I'd like to throw out there is, and maybe someone already did, about when there is a for-profit event, can we recoup some of the money if they make a profit that's over X number of dollars? Kind of like what we did with Winterfest. We're getting a check back from them and then we can recycle that money. It's great.
Yeah.
Have we looked into?
We haven't discussed that.
Okay.
Okay, so the question was asked about how much money we have available, so I'm gonna have to turn to Lisa Grant and ask her to explain the funding pots. Technically, the way it is currently.
Okay, under 480 of the budget that I sent it to everyone, it shows $285,000. We've already, we have two things in the budget that are reoccurring. One is 12,500 for a shuttle bus. We're in our last year of a 3-year commitment for that. And also 2,500 for the access to the fire tower in Hague. So that leaves us 270,000 basically based on this budget.
Any other questions about the available funds?
That's it?
That's it so far.
Okay.
Supervisor Hogan, you had your hand up. You're gonna have to bear with me, trying to survey the room, survey up there. So go ahead, Supervisor Hogan.
So we all got an email from Ryan yesterday. At least I'm assuming everybody got that email outlining potential budget amendments. Chairman, are you prepared to talk about that?
No, I'm not prepared to talk about that today. I mean, we got the information late yesterday afternoon. That's up to the committee. If the committee wants to move ahead with that, I'll go by what the committee wants to do. Right now, we're working off of 285. We would need a budget amendments if we were to increase that amount.
Do we follow up?
Go ahead.
Do we have any events that if we do not consider and make awards today will not happen?
I can't answer that.
Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you, Chairman. I have two comments. One is, I would like to consider the budget amendments that are needed to get us going. I mean, we're into May. We're talking about budget amendments from money that is left over from 2020. And you could think about that for a second. My other comment is, these are reimbursements. So I would hope that events would still go forward, even if they don't get a decision today. And knowing that they may or may not get some reimbursement of some of their costs from the OCTAX money. But if there is any, I don't know if there are any happening, at the end of May, they need to know today. It would be good to know who those are.
Anybody want to, from the tourism department, want to chime in on that?
The dates are on the cover sheet.
Joanne.
The dates of the events are on the cover sheet, the spreadsheet of all of the events and the amounts requested.
The only one I see on this is the fourth one down under new applicants. LGD 50 concert series does have a concert around Memorial Day. He has several dates listed, but he's the only one that has a May date, except for the Hyde collection, looking to do some marketing for event that starts May 1st.
Any other questions for the committee? Supervisor Beatty.
Yeah, so, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we always reimburse them, okay? So in other words, say they have the event, this new series concert, they just need a commitment that they'll be reimbursed for X amount. We don't send them a check up front. We don't do any of that stuff. We just reimburse after, and correct me if I'm wrong, the correct and accurate information is given back to the county to verify what they, right? Okay.
That's correct.
That is
So we'll
correct.
comb through all of the receipts and before she sends it to the auditor and before it's taxed. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So do you want to move on and then we can discuss the budget amendments later, or what do you want to do? Supervisor Wild.
Chairman, thanks. My suggestion is to push the budget amendments off until we get a sense of what we really feel we need for this year. And we can talk about the budget amendments after we go through all the different applications.
It's not the first time that we've gone through this way and then come up short and tried to fill in the blanks. So, and certainly with what Brian sent out late yesterday, there appears to be pots of money we can go to. But I agree with Mike. We go through the applications and then we'll decide on how we want to how we want to fund them all. But there is money available, I believe. So that being said, let's go to,
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
go ahead.
Thank you. Am I correct in understanding from Ryan's email that our budget amendments could total more than $500,000 in additional funds to be allocated this year?
Unfortunately, I can't find that email right away, so I can't speak to that. Can Lisa, somebody speak to that?
Yes, that's true.
I'm gonna say that I'm uncomfortable making allocations based on the 285 when there could be an additional $500,000 that's opened up after we consider these. If we are gonna move forward with voting on events, I will be abstaining in that case. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, let's move on. And we'll start with application number 1. Somebody want to explain it? Joanne, Lisa, Chris, what? I can't. Okay, yes, make a motion. We close the portion of the meeting. We're going into our workshop. We don't take public comment on our workshop session. So we'll go right into application number 1. So who would like to explain it? Kristen? Go ahead. Application number 1. That would be Tim.
Canciola.
Okay,
Tim Canciola from Craft Producers requesting $10,000 initially.
Excuse me,
Yes,
pull that mic forward, sorry.
sorry.
No, something new.
Something new, yeah. He's a new applicant this year, requesting $10,000 for the Lake George Arts and Crafts Festival to be held in Charles R. Wood Park, July 30th through August 1st. He has apparently a 40-year history in Vermont running this craft festival. And he did not provide a marketing plan with this particular application. And he does have some success with regards to the past event in Vermont, but did not provide that backup. His room nights for this are approximately about 75 room nights, some of those, a majority of them being vendors. And he did not fill out the rest of the expenses, though, oh, actually, I'm sorry, he did apply, he did send a budget with it. For it is a brand new event. His second application is for a food festival, a barbecue festival, which would be held August 13th through 15th, so a 2-day event, requesting also $10,000 in Charles R. Wood Park. He estimates approximately 25% would be overnight guests. In looking at his past event, which is has been in Saratoga and has been fairly successful, that estimates out roughly to around 750 room nights, more or less, or I'm sorry, 75 room nights and about 750 people. So it is new for this year. He has, like I mentioned, he does have strong success in Saratoga, did not really provide backup. So it is certainly something to consider moving forward and looking to grow. So for your consideration.
Mr. Chairman,
go ahead, Doug. Excuse me.
can I address Kristen?
Sure.
So, okay, so he's looking for 10,000 each event, 20,000 for 2 events. And you've got down the ward recorded. He's asking the village for an additional 3,000 and 4,000 for each event. Is that correct?
No, the recommendations would be for the size of his event and new and from where it is. There may, one thing to consider going forward is creating splits between county and municipalities, because some of that occupancy tax would be reverting back directly to those municipalities. so as direct beneficiary.
So your recommendation, so I'm clear, so I can, is
Correct.
that your recommendation, the tourism department is that for event number one, we look at 3,000, and for event number two, we look at 4,000. Is that correct?
That is correct. And basis behind that too is also, he is a for-profit as opposed to a nonprofit.
Correct.
So there's money that he is generating from sales, from vendor sales and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't believe this will preclude them from going to the village or the town of Lake George and asking for some of their funds too.
And this is very generous.
Well, thank you. Any questions on these two? Do you want to follow the recommendations or do you want to move on? Do you want to wait and go through them all? Supervisor Wild.
Quick questions on the recommendations. When they all sum up, is it $270,000?
I'll be honest, Mike, I have not, I have not actually gone through it. This was actually finished up very late yesterday afternoon.
Okay,
So
Thank
I
you.
apologize.
No, it's a lot more than that, right, Lisa?
Well, what they're requesting is a lot more than that, but we didn't put the Kristen's figures into the.
Okay.
The recommendation numbers are much lower.
Yes, recommendation would be lower. Supervisor Bramer.
I would say that we should wait then till we know what all the applications
Okay.
are before we
Okay.
start divvying out the 285.
Okay. Any other questions about the first two? Supervisor Stroud.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, well, to bring a barbecue festival and to bring an arts and crafts festival during the height of the summer season, two events that families love as a supplement to their vacation, I think are excellent. So I strongly support these two events
Thank you.
and what they're asking for.
Thank you. Can somebody add up the suggested events and keep a total, please? Yep.
Brad's doing it now. He's on top of it.
Brad's on it now.
MacGyver's on top of it.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, John. We'll move on to the next event, Lake George Music Festival.
Lake George Music Festival, a nonprofit category, currently an existing event, but in a new venue space coming up for this year in 2021 in the Carriage House at the Fort William Henry. It's a really great cultural event for our area. And if you look at their application, they actually have a great summary of their media partners outlined with Symphony Magazine, Chamber Music America, the Strad, Musical America, Violin Channel, etc. So they have created a very strong marketing outreach program to be able to go beyond the 75-mile radius. And they are making a long-term plan to make Lake George a music destination. They do show strong room night generation over 3 days, and they are focused on national marketing, promotion, and expansion. So this request would be for a total of $15,000. Recommendation would be that we support at the $10,000 level and that they request perhaps an additional 5 from the town and village.
Any questions on this festival before we move on? Supervisor Bramer.
We're still in the Lake George Music Festival, right? Number 3?
That's correct.
Okay. So we gave them a score of 65, so they should be given their full amount, right?
Go ahead.
It is completely up to the committee on their decision. In looking at the overall pot of money, part of the reason why some of these may be lower was because at the time that this was done and the numbers were put down, we were only working within a small parameter of the funding source. So therefore, the idea of perhaps splitting the cost between the municipality and the county to be able to allow the event to have at least a funding source was in consideration. This was before Ryan's email yesterday was received with the additional future funding. That was not known until late yesterday afternoon.
Are you requesting, Supervisor Bramer, we increase that amount from 10 to 15?
Yeah.
How does the committee feel about that? Okay,
I'm good with that.
those who who have no issue with increasing amount, just raise your hands, please. Those who would like to keep it the same, raise your hands. One, I can only see 1, 2, 3. 3, so we'll raise it up to 15. We'll see where it lands.
Mr. Chairman,
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Well, somebody in the room did. You're on the committee. Go ahead, Andrea.
I think Supervisor Wild spoke first.
I can't.
no, it was me.
Oh,
I
Oh, it was
just had the
Supervisor
figures.
McGowan. You're on the committee, so I'm
Yep.
allowing you, and then we'll go to Supervisor McGowan.
Oh, thank you. You were speaking to me. When we're making a recommendation that they also seek funding from the town and village, is that under the assumption that the spending plan is going to be restored?
I can't answer that. We're asking them to go to their balances in each community of Oxy tax funds. Unless they distribute it, there should be money left for local events.
Well, I can only speak for Johnsburg, but I've already explained that the balance that we've been given is incorrect from our perspective. So I'm having trouble bouncing an expectation of funding from the town and village off when they don't know what they have to work with.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you. I have those figures added up and it was confirmed by Supervisor Hogan in helping me out. It's my backup. So it was $344,000. They all add up with one like from the 3 question marks in there, and then with no figures, and then one from the spending plan, which was the Town of Johnsburg website marketing initiative.
344, that's total of all the monies on this?
Right,
344.
except for the 3 question marks there that didn't have figures.
Okay,
Christian might be able to.
all right, thank you.
All right.
Let's try to move on. We have a lot of applications. Supervisor Hogan.
With the 5 you just added, you're up to 349.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on this application? Okay, let's go to LG 50 concert series.
LG 50 concert series is a new event this year. He's actually looking to do 5 different concerts spanning May through October. So it's an excellent event that will run from shoulder season to shoulder season and also through the summer, multi-month series that begins and ends in that time frame. He has a strong room night generation in his application, and he's looking to expand this event with actually new video screens in Festival Commons, very large screens for future use, which could also be used potentially for other events. I'd had a conversation with him earlier this week, and the idea of having those large video screens and the audio around that could create additional events in that space in the future and might be rentable. So that certainly is something to also consider. So therefore his request for this, and again, just so you understand, when these recommendations and evaluations were done, it was done with the caveat being that we were only working with that base number.
Right.
And so therefore, the numbers that you're seeing in terms of recommendations, because we were in a COVID year last year, and there's still some flux with regard to some of these larger events, whether they can occur or not, the recommended allocations were dropped down a bit. And it's not to say they shouldn't get it. That's at the, especially the committee, but rather it was a very, very conservative approach to say, if we are to support these events, why don't we try and merge some of these funds together to make it, equitable on either side so that the event can still go on and there's still more money to be allocated through the county funds as well as through the municipalities to match them together for that event to support it as a whole. So that was kind of the mindset and the thinking behind this. It's not to say that we want to cut the money back and they shouldn't get it. And if the allocations are there in the future, that they could get them. But again, with Brian's note coming later yesterday, we were not aware of that until late yesterday afternoon. So just to answer I know some folks had some concerns and questions. So for this event being new, given the demographics, given the future growth, potential growth of this event, our recommendation was that it would be supported at 20,000, and he had asked for 30, I believe 37? About 37, Lisa? 50?
50.
Okay, 50. So, you know, that, based on the feeling of the committee, at minimum 20, it could certainly increase based on what you feel is appropriate.
Right. You know, my knowledge of Mr. Edmund, he has worked very well with the village. He books all his events at Festival Commons. And he does draw in good crowds. He has some acts scheduled for this year, and I certainly would like to see that amount go up some, because he does pack them in if they can do the concerts in person at the Festival Commons. So, but I'll let the committee members weigh in. I know he has been a very good partner with the village of Lake George and the town. So, any comments from anybody? Supervisor Wild?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. There was no 2020 award. Is this a new event?
It is a brand new event for him for that specific concert series. Yes.
But he's done concerts before in the past?
Yes.
Yes.
Has he received any OCTAX money in the past?
I believe he has.
Yes, I believe in 19 he did, didn't he?
Yeah, the Lake George, he also runs the Adirondack Independence Music Festival. He did put in for some money for, just like Americade did last year, in preparation of the event, and he wasn't able to have the event. And we did pay him a little over 17,000 last year. The last time that we funded, prior to last year, funded the Adirondack Music Festival was in 2017. And at that point, we had only awarded something like $5,000.
Okay. But I know he's got a lot of events scheduled. Supervisor Beatty?
Okay, so you know me, I'm pretty slow, so I like to figure this out. So he's asking 17,500 from the village or town. He's asking 50,000.
No, there are no requests currently that we are aware of for the town and the village. That was actually in error. I actually looked at a different application, so that was actually my error. I apologize.
Okay, so he's not asking from.
No, he's not asking. No, these were recommendations. Actually, we may want to increase that, and you know,
Okay,
then you could get a split from the town and the village. So
Well,
That
and
was
we
my error.
we paid them 17,000 last year, and obviously COVID hit and some events weren't allowed. So some events got money last year. We're not putting on an event, but I understand and totally agree that they couldn't do it. I don't know if that, the way we reimburse is they supply us with what they spent, so forth. So he was marketing, I just want to make sure I'm clear. He was marketing the event. Okay, he sent us the bills and said, okay, hey, gang, you guys approved me 17,000 or 20,000. I had to pull the event, but here's my bills that I spent. And so we gave him that check, correct? Okay, I just want to make sure how the process worked for the events that didn't take place, yet we still sent checks to certain events. Okay.
I'm not quite sure if certain events didn't he have some events, drive-through events up there or no? No, he didn't? Okay.
He did help with those, the Lake George Music Festival.
So he did help them.
Yes.
Yeah. He did help them. I don't know what happened last year. I wasn't involved in this. Supervisor Raymer, you had your hand up.
Oh, thank you. As well, Supervisor Beatty raised a question in my mind about the reimbursement of expenses. If you look at this one, the concert series, you know, he has 500, 650, $750 for advertising. So if we give him whatever it is he's asking for, well, your recommendations is 20,000. So basically 20,000 goes to running the event because he's only spending 750 on advertising. That's all acceptable with respect to our occupancy tax. Law.
I can't answer that.
It does say on there that's per day, so 506, whatever that is, 750 times 3.
He has 5 events scheduled. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So
I just thought that seemed really, really low for advertising an event like this.
He's also got a headliner. 15,000. And that would be per event, I would think.
Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Chairman. I can't speak to the his advertising budget, but I know from experience that a lot of concert promoters engage in trade with the media in response to some free tickets and those types of things. So they're not actually paying all of that cash to the radio station or the newspapers, but they're getting a bigger bang for their buck by giving them free tickets to promote.
Thank you. Somebody else over here, Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I look at this as a for-profit event,
Mhm.
and we're covering a good chunk of their costs. And I'd like to see if we can take the Winterfest model a little bit further with something like this, every nonprofit event or for-profit event, to see if we can find a way to find some return on our investment other than
That's
promise of tax
for the
coming
future.
in.
Or for now.
I'm thinking for now.
Okay.
You know, I'd love to be able to see us try to find a way to work with some of these for-profit events.
That's just something we haven't discussed with them. So, but Supervisor McGowan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be quick. Ben is correct. A lot of the music festival that's also followed. There's a bunch of followers, and some of the past events that Dave has put on is really done through the internet and the followers and that, and promoting with the free tickets. Also on the mics, and this is really a good way of where I feel that we could possibly, if we could set a deal up to get some of that money back, that we can offer some more money for, because it is for a promotional thing on tourism. And really, I don't think it's fair that they walk away with all the profit and we're always trying to scrape the bottom of the barrel to bring them in. Not that I think it's unfair, but help them bring them in and maybe a percentage of the profits to come back. So that if it turns out successful, then it helps our pool too. So thank you.
Thanks. Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you. I agree with Supervisor Wild. And that's why I would like to suggest one more time that we have a scoring system in place before we continue going on with this consideration of applications. We haven't finalized anything. So it's kind of like we're making decisions without a framework.
Thank you. Hey, Supervisor Bramer.
I also am frustrated with the scoring, the scoring points, because anytime we have anybody over 46, they can go up to 50,000. I think that those last, I mean, we're very tight on up through 34 points, but then after that, it looks like it gets a little, I'm not going to say out of hand, but there should be more more differentials between those points and raise our go beyond 46 points with a specific dollar amount recommended.
Okay. All right.
Because there are several events here that have over 46 points. So are we giving them all 50,000? That was the issue that we had in the past.
Okay. So what's your pleasure on this one? Leave it. Supervisor Stroud.
Yes, thank you. Tough to get your attention. Well, I think we have to keep in mind, what kind of events do we want in the village of Lake George during the summer and on the shoulder seasons that our visitors will enjoy and return? This is one of those events. You have an open air music theater, 5 events that, is casting music that will waft throughout the village. And this is the kind of event we want to support. So I don't know what kind of arrangement we can make with the village, but we start strangling them one way or another, they may leave. I think this is the kind of event we want to attract, and we should make sure we're supportive.
Thank you. Kristen had one comment.
Yes, Supervisor Stroh, I agree and I echo your sentiments. And actually, we just had an application earlier for another music event. And what's interesting about this one in particular is that he, in his concert series, given COVID, given all the restrictions, I mean, we've certainly gone through a very challenging year with events overall as a whole. If you go on his website, you can actually see a layout of Festival Commons where he's actually created pods, 5-person pods for each of this concert series, so that he will still be able to fall within all the guidelines and parameters outlined under COVID. And so that's certainly something from a proactive standpoint, from an event organizer, that he has gone sort of above and beyond to say, I still want to create these events and have people enjoy music. And music is something that will draw people no matter what is your, whether you like hard rock or classical music, and that was clearly stated early in the previous application that they want to become sort of a Lake George to be a music center, so to speak, for the area and the region. There's certainly great events.
Supervisor Bramer.
So I would like to ask Kristen if her recommendation is that we give them more money than what she originally, or I'm assuming this was she, with the 20,000.
That is completely up to the committee's decision based on what you feel is appropriate.
Now, I just will state for the record, talking with the mayor, this promoter works very well with the village. He's very happy with the way this promoter puts on his events. I'd like to see it increased at least $10,000 more for these 5 events. I think he does very well. I put a lot of credit in what the mayor tells us, and he didn't lobby me today for this, but I know we had spoken to him about Festival Commons. He tries to fill it up, and this gentleman does an excellent job there. So I'd like to see us increase this amount by 10,000, but I'm only one. So I'll ask the committee what's your pleasure? Supervisor Brett.
Thank you. Our scoring sheet says at 40 points, it could be 25,000. So I could support 5,000 more.
Okay. I'm all right with that. Is everybody all right with 5,000? Is anybody opposed to 5,000?
No.
Okay.
Can I just say that at this point, you're spending money that we don't have without budget amendments. We're spending a lot more that we supposedly don't have without budget amendments. It's not that I totally support these. I think this sounds like a great event.
Duly noted. Thank
Budget
you.
amendments were going
Thank you.
off the rails.
Supervisor Bramer, any more?
Okay, thanks. You called on me. I was going to say what we're doing today is going through all of these, but now we're in this workshop and we're not going to come out with a resolution today, right?
We may, if the committee is happy with it, we'll open back up the meeting and come back with a recommendation to the board. We don't have to. I would like to see us calculate all this up so we can come in and do our budget amendments and our awards at the same meeting. We have another meeting in 2 weeks. But we got to continue on. Let's continue on, okay? Let's try to move through it. Next application.
The next application is for Adirondack Cycling Advocates. They are the cycling group looking to promote cycling in the area in the region and expanding out cycling tourism. They were under a separate name prior to that. And they've actually provided quite an extensive presentation, very thorough, as it looks to enhance cycling tourism in the region, which is a lucrative growth market for tourism overall as a whole. They have asked for actually a number of different requests, funding requests, some which fall under marketing and others are more of a capital expenditure. So the recommendation would be covering the marketing and event costs and not necessarily the capital expenditures such as signage. Perhaps this could come out of municipalities, or there are other options even through the state and through entities such as Parks and Trails New York State Parks and Rec, and there are other pockets of funding that they could actually, and certainly I know a few folks, I'd be happy to connect them if they would like, that would be able to help support them in this, in these requests. You know, certainly I think that it is, they've got some great events going on. They have multiple events going on throughout the season. And there's a great future in cycling tourism for our area and our region, particularly with the growth of mountain biking as well as road biking. So therefore, the recommendation would be to support roughly at the $5,000, $15,000 level, and to see if we could find additional sources of funding for them to help them match to support their capital projects. You know, certainly wayfaring signs and things of that nature, their kiosk. Again, with the idea being that we are looking to use the funds to grow tourism and expand growth and expand promotional reach. And certainly their events and their marketing does that from a critical standpoint. They've certainly created a comprehensive marketing plan with regard to their community partnerships, their digital media coverage, as well as their event planning, and then their promotional literature. So based on those recommendations and that review, those were what we had discussed.
Comments from committee members? Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, I'm in support of this, and actually even more money, but I'd like to see some type of metric to identify what they brought into the region to do this, whether it's cycle counts, riders, ridership, events. I don't see anything like this in the application.
Well, this is a new name for an old organization, correct? It was Warren County. So perhaps we can go out and seek some information from them of what they did in the past. I know cycling is picking up in the area, and I know it's even moved up to Horkin, what they've done it with the hub up there on cycling.
In addition, Mr. Chairman, I did see one of my children send me a video of a new trail on West Mountain. So it's really expanding. So I think that's a great opportunity for us to bring more people in.
I got you, Supervisor Stroud. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I'm on the board, so I'm going to remain independent, but I can provide information. I mean, in terms of their promotion of bicycling, and you see what they want to expend it on, they want to make it, for example, they want to improve the signage. One of the things that we're concerned about is that, especially with visitors, knowing where the trails are, how to get from one trail to another, and so far, that signage needs to be improved. But we want nice looking, attractive signage. So there's a design cost to that. And so what they're trying to do is just promote bicycling in the area. And as Kristen pointed out, that it's a huge draw these days. People are coming from all over. If you take a look at the license plates up in Gurney Lane or on Rush Pond Trail on any given day, they're from all over. And families love them. So again, I'm just saying that there is no particular event. It's a wider broadcast with the funding they're looking for here, but I'm not going to advocate for or against. I just want to inform. Thank you.
Well, I would think that with the new sign machine we have at DPW, we could certainly work with them to probably help with the proper signage, just like we do with the other clubs. I mean, we have a modern sign machine that's computer operated up there at DPW. Maybe we could work with them on some of the capital improvements through the county. Supervisor Hogan was first, and the Supervisor Bramer. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to point out that this is one of the few applications we have that spans the entire county. There are trails and everywhere from Hague and Horicon to, as Supervisor Wild pointed out, West Mountain. So I would support him in his statement that I'd like to see them get a little bit more. While their signage is infrastructure, uniform signage throughout the county that really pulls the system of trails together would be tremendously beneficial to everyone. Thanks.
Thank you. Supervisor Hogan or Supervisor Bramer, excuse me.
Thank you so much, Chairman. I would echo that exactly. And I think that if you look at their budget, it's talking about the design of the sign. So certainly assistance from the county print shop would be great, but they're looking for money to help them design the new sign. So that would, I think that's all appropriate. And if you look at this, their score, it's higher, much higher than the one that we just gave 25,000 to. So again, I'd support another 5,000 for these people.
Okay, we have to move it up from 15 to 20. Any comments from the committee, or should we just pencil it in? So we'll pencil in 20,000 for the cycling. Okay. Thank you. Next, hot air balloon. Okay, go ahead.
I just have one other comment with regards to the past application.
Yes.
One other thing, if I may state that in their marketing plan, what's interesting also to look at is they're also looking to promote cycling in our area and region through renting booth space at statewide expositions and festivals to be able to also expand out that reach. So I think that's certainly another good positive to this application, to be able to expand the reach of our current tourism programs, is that they're going to talk about that and cycling in the area and the region and all the things that are do countywide.
Perhaps maybe they could piggyback on when our tourism department is out at some events.
We have been good partners with this
Good.
organization.
That was good work, collaborative. Okay, hot air balloon festival.
Okay, Hot Air Balloon Festival actually was just named one of the top 5 events in the capital region for 2021 by the Times Union and as a not to miss event for the year. They've had excellent attendance year after year. This year I've actually just spoken with Mark earlier this week. We are a little bit challenged this year with regard to capacity due to COVID. Looking to try and find different ways around that, perhaps even possibly spread it out around the county as options. So what his event looks like this year is a lot of these, anything above 1,000 is a little bit unknown at this point. It is still a COVID year. You know, they have done a great job year after year. They are a nonprofit. Their marketing plan that they provided some information, not as comprehensive as some of the others, but certainly, you know, they do have a wide reach, and their budgets and expenditures with regards to advertising, web promotion. I know that they also have things, other things that they were looking at to cover printing and whatnot. And it is an annual event. Again, please understand that the numbers and the recommendations were put on there based on the past budget that was allocated and being held without the prior email from yesterday from Ryan. So that split was determined based upon sort of a fair, equitable balance between what the county might be able to offer and perhaps what the municipality might be able to offer. It's not to say that this is written in stone. It is certainly a wonderful event that has a very large draw year after year, does bring a lot of overnights, a lot of guests to the region. So please understand that while it seems to be on the lower end, it is certainly an event that has had huge success year after year. And anything above and beyond that, based on your recommendations, is certainly welcome. So.
Okay. Committee discussion. Supervisor Molina, let Supervisor Molina go first, John, and then I'll get you.
Well, that was, if John's on there, that was my question. Over here, it says, I think we've always given them 40,000 last couple of years. And now they want 40,000. We got it down to 20, but it looks like that Queensbury is going to add 20,000 to it.
No, these are just recommendations on a possible split going forward. It's not, none of these are actual set in stone.
Okay.
They were just recommendations, again, based upon the fact that we only had a certain amount of money that we were working within those parameters. Based upon the email from yesterday, there appears to be potential future funding available. Therefore, there may be the possibility to expand out that total funding allocation.
All right. So that was my question. Maybe John can answer if he's thinking about doing that. We at least need to give him 40,000.
Yeah. Supervisor Stroud.
Thank you. Yeah, we have to give them 40. We don't have any option. Queensbury gives them 15. We don't have any option. We know that they need that kind of revenue. Now, Brad McGowan's on the committee. Now, I was. So I'm assuming Brad's is familiar now with the complexity and the expenses involved with holding this event. And this is not an event you can say, okay, well, let's cut them down to 20. You can't. They've asked for 40. They've always gotten 40. We've always given 15. That 55,000 is what they need to run the event. There are no other options, period.
Okay. And you know, it is an all volunteer event. So, I mean, nobody is making any, I mean, the community and the county makes money off the event by sales tax and what they bring in. So I can concur with Supervisor Stroud at 40,000 to keep that event afloat. And if you base it on just the nice honor they received, it certainly is money well spent by the county. And I'm just doing some calculations in my head. And if I look at these potential budget amendments, we're way under what we may amend the tourism budget at the next meeting to. So I can go with 40,000. I'll leave it up to committee. They are all volunteers. I think probably every one of us in this room has volunteered some time there at one time or another. So what's the pleasure of the committee?
40.
40.
Okay.
40.
All right. 40. Next, Adirondack Sports.
Adirondack Sports Complex. Certainly sports in and around the area have been a strong growth market, though with COVID last year, we're hit quite hard. But are definitely one of the markets looking to come back very strong, especially youth sports in and around the area as well as nationwide. The Adirondack Dome runs great events year round through the winter season. Another big plus is he does generate guaranteed business from January through December with these softball tournaments. And indoor and outdoor, they also go outside. He's also been able to have soccer tournaments on site as well as lacrosse. So there's other with the field capabilities. Again, please understand the recommendations were based on the old and existing budget, not what has been recently sent in the last 24 hours. But certainly the Dome has got a very comprehensive budget and data behind it and has had a demonstrated indication of very strong room nights year after year from his tournaments and from the tournaments of the Dome. So while the recommendation initially is for 20,000, certainly whether that is to be split with the municipality or not, he definitely has demonstrated year after year continuous growth, minus last year's COVID, which hit across the board, particularly on the sports market, very difficult. So at the pleasure of the committee, it was initially recommended at 20,000, given his score. Certainly, if you would like to increase this to the 40,000 or somewhere thereabouts, I leave it up to committee.
Okay. Supervisor Beatty.
Yeah, Mr. Miller does probably the best job of any event in supplying data, accurate data on how the event was successful or not. I've said it before, he's the template in which we as a county should want all events to report back to us. The fact that it's probably the most, besides Americade, and maybe even you can make an argument from the data that they have more overnights than even Americade. $40,000 is a definite, in my mind, for the benefit of the county. And what he's done out there in attracting all different types of events in shoulder seasons is amazing to me. He's an unsung hero, in my opinion, for the amount of sales tax revenue that this county gets through the Dome and the events that they hold. It's amazing how many bed nights he gets, more than anybody. But he doesn't blow his own horn. But I definitely support the 40,000 by far.
Okay, Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you very much. I will, I guess I would like to go along with Kristen's recommendation to go up to the around 40,000 amount because the tourism department's score on this is even higher than the Balloon Fest. And to be very frank, the dome's application includes a lot of data about the bed nights that they provide. And whereas, the Balloon Fest hardly has anything, they say unknown. I know we've got lots of visitors, but we don't know how many actually stay overnight. I do see that they have some information in the back, but in any case, I think in order to be consistent, we need to give them 40,000 as well to the dome.
Supervisor Stroud?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you talk about, we thought COVID was horrible and what it did to a lot of people was horrible. But what it did to the economy of that dome was horrible. And then you throw in 32 inches of snow when we're only supposed to get 8, and that dome collapsed. All of us, and we know Doug Miller and Terry Miller are not floating in money. They are trying to survive. They got this huge asset. And a lot of members of the community came up and they said, oh my God, what would the world be like without the dome for our region? It's a huge asset to our region. And like the other members of the committee said, he can prove that he brings business to the area. He's very good at the statistics and everything else. I support the 40 grand and thank goodness he's going to survive.
Supervisor Molina?
Yeah, I have to concur with that. They work hard at it, a lot of years, growth. I would support 40, no problem.
Okay, Supervisor Wild?
Mr. Chairman, thank you, 40,000.
Kristen, please.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick comments in relation to its impact. If you look at his event questionnaire, just for 2020 alone, which was a COVID year, he was showing 7,594 bed nights, when prior to that, he was looking at 13,750 in a non-COVID year. So that was obviously demonstrating the impact of COVID just on his business alone. Also in 2020, economic impact of about $1.8 million. Again, 60% of the normal economic impact due to COVID. So clearly a demonstration that this particular type of event and sporting events and the dome do contribute a significant amount of economic impact year-round to the area and to Warren County.
Okay, so 40,000, increase up to 40,000, and Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you. One more time, I would very much support an increase if we knew what numbers we were actually working with. And this is another instance of a for-profit where perhaps we should put it in another bucket where we ask them to return a certain amount over profit. Just one more time, saying it one more time.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. And I will say that the sports complex works with all the local teams too when they need practice time and a field to go on. So he is a good neighbor. I believe he's a good neighbor to the area and a good neighbor to all the athletic teams and whatever events he has. So I can support this. So we'll move on to the next one, 40,000. We'll pencil in. And I have been keeping track of the increases, and we're about a quarter away with our increases of one of the potential budget amendments of adding up to 300,000 to it. So we're well under what we'll potentially will do for a budget amendment if we reach that point later on. Next, Adirondack Nationals, right? Is that no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Adirondack Nationals, they're an annual nonprofit event with a strong demographic reach, estimate around 4,950 room nights. Looking to local, excuse me one second. Recommendation would be that perhaps they also might want to work in addition with the additional local businesses and hotels for additional support as well. Again, the recommendation is based on the initial budget, not the future of what we may have, as our chairman just indicated. Certainly is a very strong annual event with a very strong economic impact in and around the area. Initially was recommended at 20,000. However, based on the prior knowledge that this budget could increase, and certainly at the discretion of the committee, the recommendations can certainly increase going forward. They are an annual event. They also do give to Big Brothers Big Sisters, St. Jude, and 3 other colleges for automotive scholarships. and adopt a family at Christmas. So there's a very nice give back as well for this event.
Comments from the committee, Supervisor Wild and
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm just here to say that I would support the 25,000, but no more. That's what we gave them last year. And last year they didn't even hold their event.
did they turn in what they spent?
We did not.
We didn't require that?
We didn't pay them last year.
We did not pay them. Okay. But that's what we were gonna, that was their stipend,
That was
25,000. And any other
We
comments?
awarded them originally.
That's what they awarded.
Any other comments? Mike, 25,
Yes.
Supervisor Bramer?
I can support that. I take into consideration the fact that they are in September. So a little bit on our shoulder. I think that's important.
Okay,
Oh, I have one more question too.
sure.
You know, in the last couple of applications, I thought that Supervisor Stroud kind of weighed in that Queensberry wasn't able to support the organizations. I'm wondering if, well, this is one's in Lake George. So I guess that still stands though for ones that are in Queensberry, if they're able to get any local municipal assistance.
That would be up to the municipality.
I'd support the 25.
25? Okay.
That's what.
So 25,000, we'll raise that up to 25,000 for the car show. Okay, next. Alpha Wing, Alpha Win, Lake George Triathlon Festival. This seems to be new or?
Actually, it is not new. The Lake George Triathlon Festival has been run in the past by a separate organization. It was taken over by Alpha Run or Alpha Win over the last year. They are a strong annual event in Lake George. They're well organized, and we'll be adding this year new features, including an iron distance run and a sprint. They did give a strong presentation, including a marketing plan. They're showing room to grow, and it's
Done on different paper. Can you do the?
John, you want to mute your? Thank you.
as I was saying, they did give a strong presentation, including a good marketing plan indicating where they're looking to grow, including 2 new events, adding to their overall 3-day event this year. It is in September. Their iron distance run and the sprint, as I mentioned earlier. Looking at overall trends in the running world, certainly running events, endurance events, and trail events per Destination Management Magazine are showing that endurance, trail running, as well as running as a whole, is something that is still growing, even in the rise of post-COVID. So certainly right now in Lake Placid, they do have an Ironman that happens year after year. If we are to have an event like this in and around our area, it could certainly exceed Lake Placid's event, only because we have more capacity from a housing standpoint. So they are looking at roughly 650 plus room nights, and we're asking for $30,000. Our recommendation was initially 15, again, based upon the past previous budget, without considerations of what future funding may be available.
Right. So what's the committee? It doesn't look like they make a profit on this, though, does it?
It's
Looks
for
like they break even.
They about break even.
They break even on it. So they're not really, excuse me, it may be a for-profit, but they're not making a profit. What's the committee's pleasure?
15.
15? 15? Okay, 15, it will be.
I would just note that in the world of triathlon, people are here for the event in and of itself, but they come here to train. They go to Lake Placid to train. They want to know what the water is like, the roads are like when they're cycling and running and swimming. So there is a little added benefit to the event in and of itself.
Well, we may be able to revisit it, but we'll see where we are. Next would be Americade. Excuse me.
Americade, we're very familiar with that annual event. They've changed their dates this year. Initially, it is a June event. It has now been shifted to September. which is a change due to COVID and all the COVID-related capacity limits, which is somewhat of a challenge. And so one of the things to consider also is this event is also taking place in overlapping Balloon Fest. They are a for-profit event. They did not attach a marketing plan, but they do have a strong reach of demographics beyond 3 hours. One thing to consider is some of the demographics may be aging out just a little bit, but it would be good to see what future growth they're demonstrating moving forward. It is a major event every year. It would be good to see a little bit more data from them with regard to the total number of room nights and the specifics of their marketing reach. They do have a strong economic impact. Many of us are very well and familiar with the event, seeing the area filled with motorcycles and with people. But it would be good to see a little bit more data. So one of the recommendations, again, based upon the past budget, without consideration for any future funding, was to be a split between the county and the town and village of Lake George for 25,000 with a 25,000 split with the town and the village. Again, this is just a recommendation, but it is at the discretion of the committee.
Okay, comments by committee members. Anyone?
Yeah,
Supervisor Strout.
well, thank you. Well, we have proposed cutting Americade in the past. And Bill and Christian Dutcher were both in and explained in great detail why that wasn't a good idea. Are we going to be in the same situation again this year, especially given the additional expenses with COVID and so forth? Yeah, I'm just, one of the most successful events in the nation needs money. Yes, it is a for-profit, but we're very lucky to have this event here. And I think we got to keep all that in mind. Like I said, if we cut what they requested without good reason, I'm sure that Christian will be in here pronto. Now, Christian has already proven how successful he is, even with a new event, such as the Winterfest. I don't think Americade makes the kind of profit that they're going to return the money. I think they need it for promotion. And in any event, I'm very concerned about cutting their request. Thank you.
Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you. One of the reasons on the last application I didn't support any more than the 15,000 was because they didn't have a lot in their application. And I think it's the same idea with Americade. Their application is okay, but there's not a lot of information there to support going up from what we're at the recommendation right now when we've got a score of 38, unless they can provide us more information. And I would like to ask, I put this in the group chat, but I'd like to ask that the tourism department go back to all of the applicants and make sure they ask them for complete application materials. If there's something missing, let's get that from them before we finalize these numbers.
Okay. I know Supervisor Merlino.
Well, we all know Americade more than 20 years. We know their event. They know what we do. We're a little worried about where it is this year because it's in the Balloon Festival, but I still believe they need the 50,000. Christian proved it over the winter with a $40,000 loan from basically our county and paid it back. That's amazing. So I think we should stick with it and see, hopefully maybe we'll get some of the 50 back.
Okay. Any other comments from the committee? Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, I would support the 50,000. It's a sustainable event. It's done it for many years. And if you look at the next to the last page on the application, there's 12 million in lodging. That brings in much more than the 50,000, if my math is correct, to our occupancy tax reserves for our funds. So it's self-sustainable, and I would support it at 50,000.
Okay. Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you, Chairman. So based on Supervisor Merlino's comments, are we now going to be asking for-profit events to return a certain amount?
It's up to the committee. If
Was
you
that
want to
the-
make change to the way we do things, we'll have to discuss it at a future meeting.
Well, Supervisor Merlino just said maybe we'll get something back. I felt like I missed something here.
Oh, I didn't hear that. so-
Basically, that's what I said, but I said maybe. I wasn't making it mandatory.
Okay.
I don't understand.
You want to clarify your statement, Gene?
No, it's because we don't know what he's gonna make or what he's gonna bring in because it's on, I would agree with it back in June because that was a great week for the county. Can't guarantee, there's no guarantees that he's gonna be making a profit. So,
But are we now gonna institute a request of for-profits to return something?
that might be discussion down the road, but not for me right now.
Thank you.
Did you hear that, Andrea? Okay, Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you. I, for one, would like to have that discussion now. I think that we should be thinking about that for profits. If they make over a certain percentage, we ask for some amount back. I think this is the time to have that discussion where we're changing some of our processes and trying to get this more sustainable, as someone just mentioned. But on Americade specifically, our staff recommendation is that we see an actual data and marketing plan. We have a budget summary here, but nothing from the past. And I do see this sheet at the end that Supervisor Wild referenced, and I would like to know where that came from. Was that from the applicant, or is that something the tourism department was able to pull off of some software?
Are you talking about the last page?
The second, I guess it's together. I'm not exactly sure where.
It's a
this
C,
came from.
it says right up there, it came from the CBB. Isn't it plugged into the program, Lisa?
Yeah, we share the event calculator with the CVB, and these are actually my numbers, and I'll be the first one to say that I am not proficient in using this event calculator. Gina has extensive background in using it, and I know that sometimes she's able to tweak these numbers to come out with a result that she thinks is reasonable. So I wasn't gonna even attach this, but I thought, what the heck? I'll put it out there, and when I get information like the input sheet prior to, I just put in what they say. So, and there's certain numbers in the calculator that are just automatically put in there by the program. So be it what it may, that's how that came about.
Supervisor Bramer.
Okay, so now my brain is going. Can we have this sheet for every one of these events that we funded in the past?
I have no idea.
Could you please ask?
Who am I going to ask? CBB?
Sure.
We'll ask the CBB. I don't know if they track the information on all these events.
Lisa has entered the information for our significant and recurring events.
Okay.
So if there are some newer ones here or some that have come from town, she may not have done this event calculator, but Lisa has that application at her desk for the event calculator. But again, she hasn't had training on it, so she will input the numbers that are given to her. Gina, on the other hand, has worked with the event calculator at the Albany CBB extensively, so she might be able to tweak a little something here and there. Not to say that it's wrong, but she just has additional insight and years of experience with the application that Lisa has. So if they tell her number of nights, Lisa puts in number of nights. How many attendees? Lisa will enter number of attendees. So it's just very straightforward.
We could certainly ask her to go back and do the ones that we have the information for and try to get a number. Supervisor Hogan.
Oh, you're so gracious. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we table further discussion and further frustration until we have all the information in front of us and are comparing everything on equal footing.
Thank you.
I will second her motion.
I don't know what the motion is.
Table the discussion until we have more information.
On the rest of the applications,
Yes.
we have a motion, we have a second. Discussion. We're in a workshop, so I guess we can't do that unless you want to come out of the workshop, correct? Is that right?
Wait, you're telling us we're going to have a vote at the end of this workshop. Why can't we have a motion?
You can't have a motion when we're in the workshop. It's a workshop. We're discussing the applications.
So after this workshop, we're going to convene a meeting and then we're going to have,
Yep. That's what I was told we could do.
We just hit pause?
I'm not sure that that's accurate. And I mean, this was framed as a workshop all across. There was no public notice of a
Well, I'll
meeting.
ask the committee members, do you want to pause on this? Do you want to continue with these applications?
Continue.
Continue?
I want to pause.
We have 1, 2 pause. The rest of you want to continue?
I'll pause.
3 pause. And we have how many continue? I want to continue.
Continue.
John wants to continue. Gene wants to continue. And Mr. Wild, you want to continue?
Yes.
4 to 3, we're going to continue. So in Americade, we have a request or suggested request 25. What's the committee's pleasure?
50.
15.
We have 50 by Wild, Supervisor Wild, Mr. Molino,
50.
50, Ms. Bramer.
I think we should revisit it before we give them more.
Okay, you want
I
to
wanna-
25?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Beatty,
I think I'll go with 50.
50. Mr. Supervisor Stroud,
15.
Ms. Hogan,
Abstain.
okay. Kristen, you had a comment?
I do have one comment specifically with regard to Americade. It is certainly a great event year after year. You know, there is a little bit of uncertainty going forward, given the fact that it is changing its dates. But one thing we need to also to look at really across the entire county is one, the impact it has on the room nights, which it does have a significant amount of impact on the room nights on our local hotels and properties. Secondly, the economic impact of the sales tax and the number and the amount of money that it brings in year after year with regard to how much money these folks spend in the restaurants, in the shops and everything else. So those are certainly considerations to look at globally at this event that has been successful year after year.
Okay, Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you very much. Kristen, I appreciate what you're saying. I know you've looked at these carefully. Why didn't these guys get a higher score than 38? I mean, we're going to give them 50,000. And from looking at the sheet, I shouldn't look at you, Chairman. Can we ask why their score was so low? Knowing that they have this other greater cascading effect on economic impact.
To answer your question, Supervisor Bramer, some of the pieces that we look at critically to evaluate some of these or all the evaluations are certainly things like, are they complete? Is there a marketing plan attached? Is there a budget attached? Is there enough information to truly make those decisions? And there were some pieces that were missing in here that perhaps might have scored those a little bit higher. So again, in going through the questionnaire, those were things that were, from our perspective, were a little bit challenging. Now, we can certainly go back and ask those questions and request that information, which would then bring up those point levels higher because that information would be available. And I think moving forward, certainly as we go to evaluate future evaluations or future applications, making sure that we have that data available would be a lot easier for, I think, everyone to truly evaluate something in a realistic manner.
So we have 4 of us that agree on 50,000. We certainly can ask for more information in the future. We can make it mandatory in the future that we get the other information. We pencil in at 50 with the caveat that we receive the information.
Yes, I'm with that.
Okay, and then if we don't receive the information in 2 weeks by the committee meeting, we'll reconvene and potentially reduce this award. Is that
I would like
acceptable?
that. I would like that solution.
Yes? Okay, Supervisor McGowan.
Yeah, thank you. I thought it was mandatory that you get some financials and, from groups, especially in the established.
I
That
don't
was
know.
my understanding in the past, so.
I don't know that to be, is that correct, Lisa?
It is correct, and it's not anything that any of the committee has pushed.
There you go. So we're gonna push it. So
Okay,
we're gonna award them
thank
50
you.
based on getting information in 2 weeks. Okay,
And if they, Mr. Chairman, if they need a template, have them check out the dome for information. That's how you supply this committee with the correct information needed to make an educated decision.
right. Okay. Next would be the Hyde collection.
Hyde Collection is looking for exhibition support. It was named a cultural gem for the region. They've estimated 2,618 room nights used between May and October for their new exhibits that will be up and coming. It is a cultural tourism attraction where 36% of their visitors come from beyond a 3-hour radius. And they're currently looking to create packages with local hotels, which is definitely a positive approach to bringing in more tourists to the area. One thing to note, cultural tourists actually spend on average more than $1,000 when they do come. So therefore that will translate over into more sales tax also being collected. They're a higher end travel. They did provide a very strong marketing plan focused on the drive market, and they were looking to create synergies in and around the area. Some notable parts of their application. They are looking to boost their print and digital marketing efforts in the time between May and October. And additionally, they are also looking to connect with the New York State Tourism Industry Association's Roam the Empire campaign, which has just recently launched over the last couple of weeks, encouraging New York State residents to travel in and around the state and to look at different destinations and come visit. They're also targeting areas such as Central New York, Western New York, Hudson Valley, as well as Southern Vermont and Western Massachusetts. And so their primary focus was to increase visibility and awareness, expand their digital strategy and data collection, and looking to embrace arts and cultural tourism in and around the area. Some of the things they're looking to do includes bus wraps with Lamar Transportation in and around Albany Airport, social media email marketing campaigns, brochure distribution, promotional videos, print ads, radio advertising. They have a very comprehensive approach to their marketing and promotion, as well as I mentioned earlier, developing packages with local hotels. They currently work with the Queensbury Hotel, and they're also looking to create incentives in and around the area as well.
And I believe they work with the town of Queensbury. Is that correct, John? They work with you?
Yes, they do.
So what's the pleasure? Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I prefer to keep it at the recommended 15,000, same as last year. And if you look at their P&L from 2019, their net income was over $500,000. So I'm thinking that let's keep it the same
Okay.
and move forward from there.
We have that suggested. Anybody, any other comments? Supervisor Stroud.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I agree with Supervisor Wild. I mean, if you remember the study that was done on tourism, it was 38 or 39% going from memory. People came to the area because of the cultural institutions that we have available to them. And again, one of the reasons for our success, even through the COVID, was the diversity that we offer the visitors who come to our area. Yeah, we have beautiful Lake George and we have beautiful events at Lake George. But we have the shopping in Queensbury. We have the downtown hotel. We have horseback riding in Luzerne. We've got nice bike trails up in Johnsburg. I mean, it's the whole diversity thing. And having our museums, which are existing by a thread right now because of COVID, and supporting those and make sure they exist is part of tourism. Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Brown.
Thank you. As Kristen mentioned, they have a really detailed marketing plan. It's pretty impressive. Over 68,000 planned expenses for marketing. I certainly think we should do at least 15.
Thank you. Any other comments? So we leave that one at 15. Okay, we'll move on.
Okay, next,
Improv records. This is another one.
yes, Improv Records, the Adirondack Independent Music Festival. It is in their 6th year. They've generated about 2,200 room nights in the past. It's a 2-day music fest on the shoulder season. It takes place in September the 3rd through the 5th. In their application, they do show a demonstrated increase in attendance year after year with a solid marketing plan and data provided. Certainly, again, the recommendation was based on the previous allocations for our budget, not based on what we are looking at going forward. So it is at the pleasure of the committee to decide what your decision will be in terms of its allocation. Some of the things that they did mention in their budget or in terms of the economic impact is they say that they estimated county tax generation of $52,000 in 2019, $52,642. Their economic impact overall for 2019 was around $547,625, or an estimation of about $125 per person.
Okay, so what's the committee's Supervisor Bramer?
I'd like to bump them up to their allocation from last year, 25,000.
25. Yeah, this will make the 6th event at the Wood Park. Anybody else? Can we all agree to that? Yeah, Supervisor.
Mr. Chairman, it's come up for discussion before about trying to see if we can take advantage of that Winterfest model. And I know it's not going to be easy for us to do, but I would like to hear from every nonprofit submission that we have to find out what they might be able to do for us and what they would suggest.
The profits, you mean?
But, yes, return on profits.
Sure.
And I don't know how to gauge that. They know better than we do. But it's based on a certain amount of ticket sales. If they exceed that, maybe it's something to that effect.
I got you.
But I think we need to ask each one of them what they might recommend.
We certainly put together a program and go to them and ask them.
Just ask them for their ideas, because
Sure.
I think each event will be unique.
Okay.
But this just brings it up again.
Okay,
Thank
but
you.
we had request to increase it up to 25. Any opposition to that? We'll increase it up to 25 then.
The next two,
Yeah, go-
the next two are already in the budget. They are, as I mentioned originally, we had 285,000 budgeted, less this 15, which left us 270 out of the original budget. So these figures don't go anywhere. These are already taken into consideration.
That's the North Creek Business Alliance one?
Right, it's the 3rd year.
Okay,
And
Right.
also the Hague Fire Tower, 2,500. They, that's not on your sheet there.
okay, that's
That's.
what we committed.
We've committed that for the last 2 years.
Okay, so now we're going to primetime lacrosse, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, Primetime Lacrosse, it is a for-profit event. It is an annual event over the last 4 years. It does take place currently over at Golden Goal, which is actually in Washington County. However, they do also use fields in and around this area. They've shown a demonstrated growth over the last 4 years and are looking to continue to expand in 2022. Estimating right now at this time, 4,953 rooms for 2020 last year, with an economic impact of 2.5 million. Their presentation is fairly comprehensive, and they're also demonstrating they're bringing folks out of the area, including from California, Texas, Canada, Florida, North Carolina, and the New England states, and they are looking to grow. One of the challenges that they do have currently is the fact that they have actually run out of fields in our area. So they're looking actually to find additional fields. Next year, we're hoping that perhaps we might be able to use SUNY Adirondack with their new build once that area is complete as well.
So their request was 40, but we're recommending 20. Any discussion on this one? Supervisor Bramer?
Their score is really low, but they do have a very complete application. Can you Can we hear more about why their score is so low?
A couple of factors did come into play. The fact that they are right in the middle of the summer in
Right.
July certainly gave them a bit of a lower score as opposed to being on the shoulder season. They are for-profit, which meant they did not get the extra 10 points for the nonprofits, but they do show demonstrated growth year after year. And so, yeah, I mean, that's the best I can say.
Supervisor Stroud?
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if you've ever been to their site. It is in Fort Anne.
Yeah.
It is, it's mind-boggling. I didn't expect anything so extravagant, for lack of a better word. And I'm not belittling any town or anything. I mean, but this is quite a complex. And it draws people in from all over the area. And the reality is, those people that come here for multiple day tournaments stay at hotels. Not, Fort Anne, unfortunately for Fort Anne, doesn't offer them. So they stay at hotels in Lake George and Queensbury and the region. So we do benefit by this. But if you haven't been to the site, you should go visit it.
Okay. So what's the pleasure? Somebody want to make a recommendation? The recommendation is 20. You want to leave it at 20? You want to increase it? What do you want to do?
Mr. Chairman, I think 30, the same time as last year. Same as last year. It's an event that's expanding and it's growing.
20,000?
No,
30.
wasn't it 30 last year?
Yes.
Yes.
A 30?
I'm thinking,
Raise it to 30?
I'm thinking raise it to 30. They've been successful with their event. And let's just leave it at that going forward. Maybe we can think about leaving it at 30 going forward unless they want to come back with another proposal for us with some return possibility.
Is committee Supervisor Bramer?
Is Queensberry providing any money to them this year?
Supervisor
that
Stroud,
was-
have they made an application?
They have not yet made an application. And part of the problem is, and I think Supervisor Hogan pointed out, we're not really sure how much money we're going to be getting. But we have supported them in the past, yes. And we have not gotten an application as of this time from them.
Okay. So raise it to 30. Is that committee consensus? Anybody oppose it? Doug, do they ever use your facility?
Do they use Sunnyside? Well,
No, Doug.
I was gonna say, I don't own that anymore.
No, do they go to the Dome? Is that one of their,
They have asked us to use our field. It would feel like an exhibition field with my turf field. Our grass field is crossing incredibly stressful on turf.
okay.
Our turf field is huge. We have fall, the high school soccer. We put out high school. So I can't put them on our turf field. Our
I got
grass field.
Okay, thank you. So 30,000, correct? All right, we'll pencil that in for an increase up to 30.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
thank you. I have to go to another meeting. So I wish you all luck with this very confusing process. I just would like to say that as you increase each one of these allocations and you haven't increased the budget, you're spending money you do not have. You are also, you need to be mindful if we're going to restore the spending plan, you can't spend money twice. And I also would caution you all about convening a meeting that was not properly noticed and voting in a meeting that was not properly noticed, if that is what you plan to do after this workshop. Have a good afternoon, everybody.
All right, next, Warrensburg Bike Rally.
So Warrensburg Bike Rally, an annual event, usually falls around the same time frame as Americade. Up until last week was going to be in June, has now potentially moved to September. There are no new dates currently listed. Again, that has to do with capacities regarding COVID. There was not a marketing plan attached to this. And we are still waiting for the new dates. Again, this is just a brand new announcement that we just spoke about last week. He had really tried to make this work, but again, with the limited capacities right now and given the numbers that this event has, he is talking about moving this to September with no new dates at this point. If it's tying back into the same time frame as Americades, it may cause some housing issues, as it also will double book also with Balloon Fest. So this is something that we need to also consider, but it is a very strong event for the area, estimating, 2,000 room nights plus, according to their information. So hopefully we will get new dates from them moving forward at
So-
this point.
So we don't have a date.
We do not have a date.
I don't know how we can fund this without a date
We don't have a new date at this
right
point.
now. I mean, I think we need more information. I mean, I know it's in my community. I mean,
I just spoke with Ed last week, and he had made a very hard decision to unfortunately postpone this until September, and we're waiting to hear right now what his new potential dates may be. So we could potentially table this for future consideration.
I don't like doing that, but without a date, we're funding an unknown application. I mean,
If it doesn't happen, we don't pay it, that's all.
Hmm?
If it doesn't happen, we don't pay it.
okay, Supervisor Bramer,
I think we just hold off on this one for now.
and try to get information in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
Go back to him. Would that suffice?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
I'm all right with that. I'll try to speak to Mr. Zubro. I don't even know if he's back in the area yet.
He's not.
He's not back in the area. Supervisor Beatty?
I'm a little troubled by the fact that I think Ms. Hogan is spot on about our rules of the board states we can't take action in a workshop.
Yeah.
Are we taking action? I'd like to ask our county attorney, Mr. Dickey, is if we can legally do what we're doing in a workshop. It's my understanding this is an open meeting violation of us taking action during a workshop. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Ms. Hogan's wrong. I don't know. I just want to make sure we're doing things right. Mr. Dickey?
It's my understanding that this meeting was posted.
I can't.
Was this meeting posted
Yes.
correctly?
It was posted.
So it's my understanding it's not violating open meetings law. Our rules of the board do state that you can't take action in a workshop, but if we exit the workshop and we have a special committee meeting, if we have a quorum, we can take action.
So
Our parliamentarian is on the Amanda.
Yep, I would just note that this meeting was absolutely posted, noticed, as it should have been in keeping with the open meetings law. The workshops that you're talking about in the rules of the board, that's a workshop of the board. Those are the special meetings we have. There's no action taken. That's just to update you on information. That has nothing to do with committees. This committee has traditionally held workshop settings to discuss and review your occupancy tax applications. We've done it for years. The point of that was so that you could enter into a workshop session, discuss them without having public input from those who were putting forth applications and wanted to speak on them. Once you're done reviewing your applications, you'll come out of your workshop setting, resume your regular session, and you can vote on whatever you would like to.
Does that suffice?
yeah, it sounds legal then.
It's the meeting, what you're doing right now, you have a quorum of your committee. You can vote on what you would like to. The workshop is just a semantics for saying that you're going to be working on the applications as you're doing right now. But the workshop that is referenced in the rules of the board is a workshop of the board, not a committee. And those are the ones that Chairwoman Sieber instituted with no action taken so that they could be used for informational purposes only and not for the board to take action.
So technically, we're not taking action. We're going to wait till we come out of the workshop to take action. Is that
Right.
correct?
Once you're done with your workshop, you'll go back into what would be considered your regular session, and then you'll take action.
Okay.
Assuming that you still have a quorum of the board of your committee at that time. Of course, if you don't have a quorum, you can't take action, but
Okay, thanks, Amanda.
you're welcome.
Okay, so the bike rally, we're sort of tabling until we get a confirmed date. And we can review it then. Orangeburg Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, Warrensburg largest garage sale, a nonprofit annual event, does have a community give back to it. It does donate to local nonprofits. They have a very strong media and marketing plan that was attached to this, which clearly demonstrates where they will be advertising and promoting, as well as information stating that they do traditionally occupy about 2,554 room nights per year, with an estimated 300 rental occupants for short-term rentals. In addition, one of the interesting points about this is that while lodging is not necessarily in and around the area, it does have around a $3.5 million economic impact across the board. Sales tax implications. A lot of lodging is likely outside of the town of Warrensburg, but as you can see by their attached information, they do show all the zip codes and the demographics for where they have folks coming in from out of town. And it's not just those that are visiting the actual event itself, but also their vendors. So the recommendation at this point also with its total package was at the level of 28,000, which I believe was funded at that same level last year as a nonprofit. And the request was the same for this year. And at the recommendation of the board, certainly it's for your consideration.
What's the pleasure of the committee? Supervisor Wild,
28,000, same as last year.
Supervisor Merlino,
Yeah, I'll second that. I agree with it.
any other comments or concerns? I won't be voting on that one. Okay. Next, we have municipal request. It's a little bit different. And the first one is from the town of Horkin. And this is for Food Truck Friday. So Kristen?
Okay, Food Truck Fridays is an event which takes place on the Fridays of each from July 2nd through August 27th. They have food truck corrals, live music, cornhole tournaments, games, activities for children, competitions, fireworks, and prize drawings. They're looking for support for additional radio and Facebook advertising, fireworks, kids' activities, prize drawings, and an eating competition. So they've traditionally marketed and promoted through Froggy Radio, through posters distributed to camp retail areas, motels, campgrounds, home rentals, and Airbnbs, as well as through Facebook advertising. They did have a nice presentation. It does appear to be somewhat of a little bit more of a localized event, but certainly support for them for marketing and fireworks. They did provide a very good information with regard to their marketing. So if it's possible, again, based on the budget numbers from previously allocated, without consideration of the future allocations, the recommendations were to be at the $12,000 level. They did request $19,325.60. Don't know if there's any additional funding that can be received from the local level, but certainly from the county's perspective, that was the recommendation. And it's at the pleasure of the board.
Supervisor Bramer.
Okay, according to our new scoring sheet, you can only go up to 7,000 for something that scores 21 points. So I'm not going to support the 12.
What'd you give them last year?
This is new. They've never come to the county before. I think that I'm aware of. Have they?
No. 2019, they did have an event. That was the first time they were playing the county for the 21.
Right. I think there's a little confusion because I think some communities put in applications here because of not getting, we didn't vote on the spending plan, so to speak, the extra money that went to the communities. In the spending plan, a community like Horkin would have received $15,000 extra in the spending plan, which we didn't put forth because we didn't have it in the budget. Their balance at the end of 2020, they had allocated, they had $16,727 left in their Oxy tax fund at the end of 2020. And then their expected to receive $5,256 more in May, which will be the allocation of what each community gets from the true up of the 25%. So potentially they would be a little bit short with this event. I can support at least the 12,000. I mean,
I'm comfortable with it. Ms. Bramer said, what, you said 7,000?
oh, you said 7? Okay. So, I can go with it, allocated amount, Supervisor Merlino, and then I'll get to you, Supervisor,
I was gonna say 12, but
Supervisor, McGowan. I know you're not on committee, but
I'm not on the
value
committee,
your input.
but thank you. I will say that I did, I've been through there twice and one night we actually stopped. I actually stopped in for, to support, Matt at the time. And then we were on the bikes and we came through and it really was, we had a great time. The music was phenomenal. The food was great. And we really enjoyed it. I think it's a great event and there was quite a few people there. It was easier parking for the motorcycles than it was for cars, but I think it's a good event to help out because it does draw a lot of the tourist people up there and around for an event for the North Country. So just wanted to give you my 2 cents. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure, Mike.
so I have a question. I'm not sure who to address it to, but I'm looking at their proposed budget and it looks like they're getting 220 by 40 tents. It's $9,000. That seems an awful lot of money for renting tents. Is that a capital investment that they're making? Do we know?
Rent a tent for how much?
9,000, 220 by 40 tents. That's what their budget is.
For the year?
I would assume so. I'm not sure what it costs to rent the tent, but that seems a little high.
Is Ms. Smith on there?
That was what can we ask Supervisor Smith, what is
Sure.
going on?
Supervisor Smith, do you know the tents, what they are? They charge you by the week or do they set them up for the?
No, that's to purchase because we plan on continuing this year after year. We had these before COVID, as Brad said, and they were extremely successful. And we had borrowed tents from the Historical Society, which were like 30 some years old and they died. And we can't do this without having a cover over the picnic tables for rain or shine either. So that was purchased and we got many prices and that was the best price we could come up with this year.
Thank you. That's to make it more permanent.
Yes, we would have that up all summer long and then other people could use the tent, but it would be there for every Friday night's event, which is 800 to 1,200 people every Friday night is what we averaged.
Okay. Supervisor Bramer?
Could we ask Supervisor Smith if there is any town funding from their OCTAX fund?
Yes, we're funding some of that. We had tagged money last year, so we are funding because the budget for that with everything included is, I don't have it in front of me. It's around 24,000, I believe.
Yes, 485.60.
Yeah, that's it. I got it in front of me. That's the total amount. And what we really were looking for from the county is the tents, the live entertainment. We have a different band every week and they're good bands. They're fairly local, top quality bands. And we also, the last night, we're going to do fireworks, which is $5,000. So
Sure.
That's what we were looking for.
So we're close to your 13 that you were looking for if we were for 12,000.
Yeah, I think we were looking for 19. Yeah, 19,325 is what we were looking for.
Right.
So I'm still confused. So how much did the town of Orcon put into this last year, this event? Well, not last year, because
We didn't do it last year. It was about 11,000 and when we did it then, we had local businesses sponsored the bands. And it was a stretch for them to do that. We felt this year after the COVID and how the local businesses have suffered, we wanted to be able to fund all of the bands this summer. And so that's where an extra, 5,000 comes in there. We may be lucky and somebody will say, oh, I'll sponsor a band, but in the planning process to get this up and running again, which we've had many requests for, this is the way we went.
So, thank you. A follow-up. So, you had participation bound from local businesses, okay, financially. You're
Well-
saying, let me finish, please. So now you're saying that they're not going to participate in helping fund the local bands. Okay, I get that because they had a bad year. You're asking the county to purchase your tents, which before you used to borrow the tents, but now you'd like the county to purchase tents for the town of Horicon. Okay, am I correct so far?
Yeah, the tents, we're looking to purchase 2 20 by 40 tents or 1 30 by 60. The total we came up with, the best price was $9,325. That would be used year after year after year for this Food Truck Friday, which we plan on continuing with.
And how much is your town going to put in this year?
What's that?
And how much is your town going to put in, Sylvia?
We're putting in around 11,000. Oh, where's that figure?
The total cost is about 20,000. You want the,
It's 24,485 is the total for this year's expense. And we're asking for 19 and we're putting in 11 or whatever in that vicinity. We have a committee that works on this. And there's a committee of about 6 or 8 people. And one of those committee members is our town clerk. She's the chair, actually. In fact, I believe she's the one who put in the application.
personally, I always like when participants have skin in the game. And it sounds like a lot of the businesses really don't have skin in the game this year. Although,
Well, the businesses volunteer.
Can I finish, please?
Sure.
Thank you. So, you know, I like when businesses have skin in the game. You said that they're not going to fund the bands this year and so forth, and I can appreciate the year that we've all gone through. So it sounds like to me that the town of Horicon is going to fund this event, and they want the county to pick up the rest of the funding, and there's no other skin in the game from anyone else. Is that what you're saying, or am I misreading that?
No, you're misreading that. Everybody that works this event, and it starts out in the afternoon to set up, everybody that works is a business person in the town of Horicon. So they're volunteering their time. We don't pay anybody other than our bands. And the volunteers are all business people in the town of Horicon. We did not ask them this year to sponsor the bands. That's the only way we could do it the first year because we couldn't come up with the money to start it off. And I'm sure that we will have some sponsors where you talk about giving money back. If we did, we'd give money back. But this year has been tough. I mean, as you all know, everything has been closed. We've had, nobody's been open with the COVID. Our town hall just opened again. So that's why we went that route this year.
Do you want to have
Yeah,
a
I'd like to
follow-up?
follow up. Yeah, I would be in support of funding $7,000 to help you and help the town of Horicon. And if their sponsorships did kick in, like you just mentioned, that maybe we could recoup some of that $7,000 if they did kick in sponsorship. So that's what I'd support, 7,000, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Mr. Wild?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And unfortunately, I have to leave in a couple of minutes, like I mentioned previously. But I'm curious, with the tents themselves, would it be possible for the county to purchase these tents and charge it back to individual towns that might have an event that they need to use these tents for? And that way, we're not providing tents for the life of the tent, we can have them shared between different towns that might need a tent for a specific event, and they're funded by our OGTAX. Is that something that we could possibly do?
You know, I don't know enough about the rules where that is allowable.
Maybe for a small fee?
And I don't,
I think that way we could, if the 7,000, if we agreed to 7,000, we could kind of cover that additional cost in a different way and still do what they need to do.
obviously, these are reimbursable expenses. John, you had a question? Supervisor Strauss, sorry.
Yes, thank you. No, what we're seeing in Horicon, this inertia, you have Drew Capopiano across the mill pond over at the hub, and you got what Supervisor Smith's trying to do. And not only will the tents be used for this, the tents can be used for other events that they will have at the town of Horicon. So I would support, 15,000 towards this event. And if the county needs to rent a tent, perhaps Supervisor Smith and the town board would give us a good deal. But again, I would support 15,000 towards making this happen. We need to keep the inertia going up in the town of Horicon. That's already started. It was lapsed a little bit with the COVID, but we need to help these people.
Supervisor Wild.
And Mr. Chairman, I agree with the prior speaker. I think that that's true. And one of the concerns always with OCTEX funding is once you give somebody money, they expect it year after year after year. With the tents, that's not necessarily the situation. So we could reduce the funding next year. So this is a one-time investment to help that town and that part of the county. Thank you. And I
Okay,
do have to leave.
Supervisor Bramer.
Oh, I was gonna say, I'd go with the 7,000 and then buy the tents for the county to have. I like that idea. And let Horicon use them, but the idea that then we would have to rent them back, if we did it the other way, that we would have to rent them back, even though we bought them with county occupancy tax money, just seems weird to me. But I think this and the other municipal requests, I just think we need to make sure we're talking to the town supervisors and understand better what they're already putting into the town money. And I know Supervisor Wild's leaving. I have to leave too soon. So I think maybe we de facto kind of just put this on hold. I know you wanted to get through them all today, Supervisor Garrity, but I don't think we can.
Well, I think we've got enough information on this to make an award towards the town. I mean, they asked for 19.3. It was suggested 12,000. I could support the full 12,000 towards this event. And, I think that town of Horicon will go out and try to solicit the other funding from any businesses. I think that's what I heard. They didn't do it because of the way COVID's. I don't think it's going to sink the event if but they're looking for some funding to move it ahead, correct? Supervisor Molino?
Yeah, I agree with you, Chairman. 12,000. Let's keep it going. Help them out.
Yeah, it is a community, and when we had the spending plan in place, they would have got the extra money. What's the pleasure?
I'll support 7,000.
We have 2 for 7 and 2 for 12, and Supervisor Wild left, but he was for the more.
We're not going to be taking any action. because I'm
And
gonna leave.
buy the tents. I want to buy the tents for all the communities to be able to use. We have to share them. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, 12, if you needed to count me.
12. Three for 12. Supervisor Stroud.
Well, I said 15, but I can certainly support 12 if you need the vote.
We'll give it as 12, and if we don't act, the final act, well, they need to kind of know. We're trying to put this together. So I think the committee, we're in favor of at least 12. Okay. Next, Town of Johnsburg. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm not going to support discussing this without Supervisor Hogan.
Okay, then we bypass that. Village of Lake George.
Okay, Village of Lake George, for the weekly fireworks events, annual event, definitely an asset in the region and is publicized by the county through our tourism efforts. Direct beneficiaries are the Lake George businesses and hotels. I believe last year, the year before, it was supported in some portion by some of the local businesses who were the direct beneficiaries of this event. The recommendation would be to potentially split this between county funds and perhaps joint town, village, and support from local businesses as overall support. I believe last year, the year before, I don't think it happened last year due to COVID, but perhaps the year before, there was some sponsorship from local businesses in support of these fireworks, I believe from Steamboat Company, I think Cat's Eye, and a few others that were garnered. And certainly it's a wonderful event. It certainly draws a lot of people. Some of those are already existing visitors that are currently in the air that go out to look at the fireworks. Some just drive up from Albany in the capital region, as well as others who come for the overnight from Thursday, Friday, or to come on a Thursday to stay overnight and through the weekend just so that they can see the fireworks. So again, the award and the recommendation was once again based upon the previous numbers and allocations, not considering future allocations and budgets. So therefore, at the pleasure of the committee, whatever your decision is.
Same with the last one. I don't see anyone from Lake George here. I think we should skip this one for now.
Okay. We'll skip it.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize, but I have to leave.
Okay. Empire State Towing and Recovery.
Empire State Tow and Recovery is a for-profit annual event. They made about $40,000 in profit in 2019. Estimate 300 to 400 room nights. It would be a good thing to get a little bit better data on the room pickups and a marketing plan. One of the questions we did have is if it was a for-profit and there was about $40,000 made off this event, why that some of that portion of that funding was not reinvested into this event. It is annual. It does go to Festival Commons year after year. So at this level, I believe they were requesting 7,500, and at that level, it was recommended perhaps it would revert back to the town and village for support.
Okay. So that's what we'll do. And we'll check with the town and village to see what they're going. The Prospect Center.
Prospect Center, nonprofit event, annual event. They asked for a low funding request also for approximately $5,000. Again, the recommendation would be, because it's at that level, to revert that back to the town and village of Lake George for future consideration and support.
Okay. Then we had a volleyball tournament.
That's the Prospect Center event. that
Oh,
happens
okay.
Every year on,
Is there any other ones I'm missing?
Did we do the Lake George, page 9?
Winter Carnival.
Which one?
Did we talk about that?
No.
No, we didn't. We didn't. We haven't talked about that. Okay, that's at the bottom.
That would be for 2022, because that starts January 28th, 2021, 22. So that's just listed there for future consideration. Those will happen next year with the possibility of the New York Ski Educational Foundation, and that would probably start in December because it's for the 2021 to 22 ski and ride season. But I believe we can push that off to later.
Okay. And there's one late breaking one that potentially come in will be the ice castles. So we just received some information yesterday about ice castle event, and I'll ask somebody to speak to that. Joanne?
Well, Ice Castles has not made a decision at this point, but I think what they said is they are seriously considering Lake George, as we know they have been all along. They're still looking at some final weather data, but I think they have ruled out the other location they're looking at. So we're just waiting for the final word from them. They were not ready to submit an OCTEX application at the current time, but if that event comes here, they will be back at the table for a considerable amount. But it will be for profit, but we'll deal with all of that at later date.
Did you keep tabs, Mr. McGowan, on how much
I did.
Oh, you did keep. So the way I look at it, we added 102,500 onto the suggested,
I had a total of 362,000.
that's everything though.
Chairman, I have to leave.
You had a total of 362,000
Yep,
of what we just added?
right.
The last thing I added was 10,000 for the prime time lacrosse. That's the last time we went up with something, right?
I'm going,
So we did add 102,500.
That's what I thought. We're 102,500 to, so how much is the total amount?
the total amount is 362,000,
And how much do we have in the budget?
270,
270.
or excuse me, 285, because
280.
I've included the 2,500 and the 12,500 in there. So yeah, we had 285.
So I subtract 285 from that.
Mhm.
Hmm.
$77,000.
Right. So we have potentially funded these events 77,000 more than we have in the budget. Based on the email that came out late yesterday from the administrator, we could take 77,000 out of the 2020 Oxy tax revenue surplus and add that to the line item in our 2021 budget and be able to fund these events and still have potentially another couple 100,000 left in the surplus that we could tap into. But because we don't have a quorum anymore, everybody is left. We'll have to wait for 2 weeks to determine what you want to do. Are there any comments by any of the committee members still left?
Just that I would support that.
Okay. Supervisor Merlino?
Yeah, I'd support that.
Okay, well, that's probably what we'll bring to our committee in 2 weeks' time after reviewing our numbers with the county administrator. Supervisor McGowan.
Yes, sorry, and thank you again. I'm just a little confused with the numbers.
Okay,
You asked me to add up the sheet before. All right, and I did, and we had 344 without the question marks. 344,000 on the requested, the multiple trip, this sheet here, right? So I added all those up and we had 344 with, one was Johnsburg and then the other three were question marks. So I kept track of what we added on to that 344,000. The last one if I got sidetracked, was primetime lacrosse. Is that the last one we added more money to?
we added more money, prime time across, yes. So that was actually 102,500 that we added on to the,
I got 112,500.
well, maybe we're 10 off somewhere.
All right.
But
Well,
who,
yeah, so-
10,000 amongst friends?
Because we did 5,000 for craft and barbecue. Which was like
No,
500 apiece, right?
Now
no,
we did 3 and 4. I thought.
No, I thought we increased.
we didn't increase either one of those. The first two events,
Oh,
we didn't increase those.
all right. So there's our $5,000. All right. So 102. All right.
Okay,
So 102,500 plus on top of that 344. These,
I have a
these,
spreadsheet in front of me.
she keeps it in a spreadsheet. It's a little confusing because a couple of the events weren't counted.
all right. If we're not going with the ones, I was still going after we're going to
Yeah,
follow.
we'll go with
All
Lisa's,
right.
the accountant's figures, but I do thank you for trying to keep up. It does get confusing when we get sidetracked. Okay, is there anything else that the workshop needs to discuss?
You want us to read down through the awards, or will we leave that for the next meeting?
Excuse me?
Would you like me to read what was decided, or do you want
Sure.
to leave that?
Sure, why don't we go through it? And then we gotta redo the sheet, so.
Okay, so for the first two, I'm not going to try to pronounce the man's name. 3,000 for the first, 4,000 for the second.
Right.
15,000 for the Lake George Music Festival, 25,000 for Dave Eban's LGD/50 concert series. 20,000 for the Adirondack Cycling Advocates Incorporated.
Right.
40,000 for the Balloon Festival, 40,000 for the Sports Complex, 25,000 for Adirondack Nationals, 15,000 for the new owners of Lake George Triathlon Festival, 50,000 for Americade, 15,000 for the Hyde Collection, 25,000 for Davy Men's Adirondack and Independence Music Festival. 2,500 stays in the budget for the Lime Adirondack Timberlands, which is the access to the Hague Fire Tower. 12,500 for the third year of North Creek Business Alliance, the help with the shuttle buses. 30,000 for prime time lacrosse. We did not make a decision on the Warrensburg bike rally because of lack of dates. 28,000 for Warrensburg Chamber of Commerce, 12,000 for the town of Horicon. We have not discussed town of Johnsburg and Village of Lake George requests. And the following, the Empire State Towing and Prospect Center refer back to the local level.
Okay.
So that should total 362,000.
Any comments? Supervisor McGowan?
My numbers aren't jiving here.
Okay, I suggest that you see Lisa after the meeting. And
Well, I just want to get this out while we're all here so we have an understanding, but if we take the projected, what's on the sheet that we haven't covered yet, what we added today, okay? You know, that comes over to $450,000. And I didn't have the 12,000 for Horicon in there on top of that 10250. All right, but I did take out the 5,000 for the craft and beer that brought it down to 102. So I added all the ways up for the last time we thought was the prime or lacrosse, and then another 12,000 for Horicon that wasn't on this sheet. So that puts us at, you know, I'm just saying at 114,500 is what we came up to today. And then project out what we didn't talk about puts us up over 450. I just want to get that out there. So because, you know, 360 something doesn't sound right. It's just, you know, just going to follow what we did. And I know we didn't finish everyone.
are you counting these where the recommendations for
The recommendation.
the winter concert series, which is next
Well, eventually
year?
we'll move them forward once
Those are
we,
next year.
well, that's just one, but I'm just letting you
No,
know that
there's,
that 368, I don't,
60, there's 60, there's 69,000, almost $70,000 are going to 2022. We're not talking about those.
all right, so it brings it down just under 400,000.
360. I don't know. Why don't you get with Lisa after the meeting so you can compare your numbers? I
I'm
guess
not
there's
on
no
the
other business, and we can come out of the workshop and with no action taken, and then a motion to adjourn.
Move.
We can't even do that.
Just close it.
We're closing the meeting. We can't adjourn because we don't have a quorum. Thank you all for spending the time. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, 362, but Brad, you get with Brad and see. Well, that's,